Welcome to Titan HST's Business Continuity Today, hosted by Todd DeVoe, where planning meets reality.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. And, today we have some pretty good stuff going on. I'm Todd DeVoe, and I've been involved with responding to emergencies and disasters since, forever, 1989, I guess. I started my journey in the field of emergency management when I was working in EMS. And, I started out doing medical logistics. And I fell in love with it. And so I moved away from doing this into doing emergency management and business continuity. And here at Business Continuity Today, we will continue to learn together, because what I like to do is learn stuff and share stuff. And this is what we're doing. And so today we're talking about leading with clarity. Now, I got to tell you, it's one of the things I've been doing lately has been reading a lot about leading teams and what it means. And some of the information, I went to is I actually went to this extreme ownership workshop a while ago, a couple years ago, actually now. And I've been flipping through the book again and looking at what things mean. And that and a couple other different ideas of working with teams. And as an individual, I knew that it was important for me to create goals and put my goals down on paper and really work through those goals. And then also as a team, when we're doing emergency management stuff, we know about working with goals as well, goals, objectives, right? And so it's something that we've been really moving around for a long time. And one of the things that came up is with my team specifically, right? And I'll bring this on personally, is that, there was a little bit of flailing fish going on for a little bit. And my buddy and I, Brian Colburn, we had a long conversation about what it means for the team to be flailing around. And it goes back to leadership. And so when a team, right, or a group of people work together, we have to come for a common goal. And so common goal, what it does is it sets the clarity. And everybody has a clear understanding of everything that you need to know and about the goal, about the work that's required to effectively achieve that goal. So let's break this down into a couple of points. One is what is our goal? What are we doing with this goal? Why are we having this there? And I've talked about this before about our why, and our why is kind of this arching thing of what our organization is all about, right? But why this specifically goal? What is our goal and why? Why are we striving to this? And then what is our strategy for achieving that particular goal, right? So just because you write down, like for me, right? All right, my goal is to lose some weight, right? And I have a goal, right? So I want to lose 50 pounds, right? And so what is my goal to achieving? How am I going to achieve that goal? That's my personal goal, right? So you have to do this as well with your organizational goals and with your strategic goals as well, is how are you going to get there and how are you going to achieve that? And then you should have a step-by-step plan into achieving that goal. Okay, so what is that step-by-step plan? How do you get from A to B? And I called it the roadmap. So I've created a roadmap for who we're working with and how we get there. And so everybody needs to have this roadmap. Now, there's a thing, right, as a step-by-step plan or the roadmap, if you will, is that sometimes there's detours that occur on your trip. And so you have to be able to be limber enough and flexible enough to be able to get around that. But I think what the idea here is getting from A to B and having a step-by-step plan, because then if you get back on the road, the right path, you'll know that you're going in the right direction. And as a member of the team, what is their exact role and what do they play? Right? What exactly? Because like now the worst thing is to come in and going, okay, I know I'm part of this team, but I don't know exactly what my particularly role is. And if you've seen this, when you look in EMS and look in fire, you look in police, everybody has their exact role to play, right? What they're going to do. And before you go into a situation, everybody is told, hey, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do this. You know exactly what your role and responsibilities are. Which steps into the next thing is, what is your responsibility, right? What am I responsible for? There's always working on those team projects, right? And it's always like 2 or 3 people doing all the work, and this other person is kind of like laying out on the side, just kind of living off that other people's work. Well, that's not what's cool with this thing here, and that doesn't work in an organization. So what are the steps to the plan, and what is a particular person responsible for, and what are their due dates and whatnot? So they need to understand that what they're responsible for. And then with that responsibility comes decisions, right? And so what decisions do they have the authority to make, right? Because if there's not clear decision making plan here, right? They might make decisions on stuff they don't have the authority to make decisions on. And then perhaps the most important thing is what's overlooked is when we're trying to achieve the goals. Why are we achieving the goals in the first place? Like I said in the beginning, right? And we need to bring that all together of why are we trying to achieve this and what's the end product going to look like, right? So it'd be wonderful if clarity is the default state of teams, but unfortunately, right now it isn't, right? So instead, the default state of teams is chaos and confusion. So how do we move from that chaos and confusion into, like I said, into clarity? So over time, we're going to take a look at our strategies, and sometimes they shift and plans change and teams grow or they shrink, right? And so sometimes it can cause confusion. So this said, as to me as a leader, right, it's understandable that confused teams have a hard time achieving their goals. They get distracted. They take a look at low priority work, right? They duplicate effort. They notice things that are late, that fell through the cracks, right? Since nobody's responsible for filling that crack, right? And so deadlines slip and quality suffers, and that's part of the issue. Then all of a sudden that team starts to have a breakdown on here. They start to squabble about who's responsible for what. Fingers start getting pointed. All those type of things occur. And that's the chaos part of what's going on. And it's the confusion part of what's going on. And then you have meetings for meetings and you have endless email threads and things like this that are happening. And that's a sign that your team is kind of falling apart, right? And these are symptoms of the larger issue, right? The lack of systematic clarity, which enables people to focus on their work instead of being bogged down on the work around them, right? And this is what you need to do. And so moving those teams from chaos to clarity is one of the most important vital functions of you as a leader, right? So unfortunately, times as leaders, right, we tend to overestimate how much clarity the team has. We think that we have we've set that plan in motion. We have been clear with our idea. We've been clear with our commander's intent, and then yet there's still some issues, right? And this is where, when I'm bringing up the idea of extreme ownership here, is you as a leader have to own that failing aspect of things, right? And then you have to regroup on yourself and take a look at what the issues are happening and look internally, not looking back out at your team. And they have to set the clarity of purpose, right? Clarity of plan and the clarity of responsibility, right? And this is why this is important, because the clarity of purpose starts with the why, right? It is important that everyone on the team share that common purpose, the clear understanding of why they're doing what it is they're doing in the first place. And so one of this is just practical, right? In a crisis, right, or emergency, the teams always have to make the judgment calls, right? And the team's purpose is to provide context in which they can do effectively. We have to trust our teammates, right? We have to trust the people that are amongst us in a crisis to make the right call. And so this is the training section that has to have a better understanding of the programs that they need to put on if they have to have a clarity of what the mission is of the students at the end of the day, right? So we have to have a clarity of what we are doing during blue sky days, so we have a clarity of what we're doing in a crisis. So the section chief, with the clarity of the company's or the department's unique mission, right, and vision, stay focused on the most important initiatives to accomplish that mission, and do not get bogged down with with the side missions and whatnot, the side jobs that are happening, because again, commander's intent going forth, right, using the military term, commander's intent, what is our purpose? So the clarity of purpose is even more important for motivation for both the individual and the kind of coherence and team unity that needs to be there. So, because a team that truly understands and believes in that common goal going forward, they know the work of a team, and they know they can persevere through the difficult challenges and important undertakings. Right? The idea of a goal here is protection of property, right? We always use this, protection. It's indeed a purpose. However, that end is not really clear. What does that mean, protection of property? You really have to take a look deeper on what you're talking about, what the process is when you say that as your goal. So great teams have a purpose that improves the world. Most successful, important, admired teams are these organizations that go out there and do great things. And so I think it's important to understand that. And so as we're leading the team, as part of the larger organization, one of the most important things that you can do is help everybody on your team understand that larger organization is impacting the world. right? In the case of emergency management or if you're in a business continuity, that larger organization, the impact that you're having maybe not be on the business continuity side of it, maybe not be on the world completely, but if you think about supply chain management, that really does feed the world, right? So your team has to understand that what they do here in their office impacts somebody over on the other side of the world, where maybe it's the difference between survival and not surviving a situation. So again, you can start by defining your team's mission statement. And I hate those flowery mission statements that really don't mean anything. Really sit back and take a look. What exactly is the core tenet of your mission? And how does that impact what you're doing to move forward? Right. So it's important that you do this as a team and set that mission up. Right. And again, don't have some language that doesn't mean anything to you. Make the mission statement mean what it means to your organization and to your group. Second thing here is the clarity of plan. So without clarity of purpose, the team, doesn't know what's going on. But with clarity of purpose, the team has their destination, their roadmap. With the clarity of plan, the team knows how to get there. So your plan, right, as you co-create with your team, defines the current basis of understanding how best to achieve the mission of the team. So typically has multiple layers, and getting progressively more detailed until you're connected with your team with your overall mission down to the actionable and accountable steps. Right. So if you put it this way, it's mission, strategy, objectives, key results, projects, and tasks. Okay. So each one of those. So if you're leading a smaller team, you may only need to define a mission or strategy and some key results for those projects instead. So let's look at this really quick. Mission is your team's ambitious goals, right? Why you were there, what you're doing. The strategy, again, is that explanation, the high-level approach that you're taking to achieve that mission. And the objectives are, as the medium term here, is how the ideal measurables, right? How are you getting there? That's what your objectives are, right? And the key results are based upon your short-term objectives. Oh, how did you get to those objectives, right? Of course, projects, those are small little missions. Like I said, they sometimes can be overwhelming at times. So you have to really understand the projects and why they're there, and what ones do you really need to take on at this particular time, and what ones can you push over to the side, and you can turn those into tasks or the individual steps needed to be taken in order to execute that project, right? So now, clarity and responsibility. The team has a clarity and responsibility. Each person knows exactly what role they have in the execution of that plan, right? So the basic level, this requires each part of the plan, okay, to have an owner directly responsible by the individual. And I think that's important, right? This is the most important portion of it. The most basic requires that each part of the plan has an owner or that is directly responsible by an individual. Right? You can't just say, hey, this needs to get done, right? Because everybody's going to think everyone else is going to do it. Now, think about this. When we teach CPR, like I said, those of us that have, right? One of the things that we always tell our students is to look at somebody and say, you point to somebody and give them the task of calling 911, right? Because if you just say, hey, somebody call 911, everybody's going to look around, right? That's what we teach them. That's the same thing here, right? And when we go to the larger disaster or emergency situation, everybody has to have that exact ownership. Somebody has to have ownership of each task and responsibility and report this up. So the clarity of responsibility also entails clear definitions of the role, okay? And so you have to have that responsibility. And there are teams that are maybe involved in different things, but there is one person who is directly responsible. I think I've hammered on that enough. So stay vigilant, right? And as a leader, it's your responsibility not only to create clarity, right, but also to be vigilant as time goes on, and look at what's happening to see if your vision is still there and everybody has an understanding and is still clear for them, right? Don't just say, hey, this is happening, this is my commander's intent. Right, there's the term that they use in the past, like they have the 1 minute manager, right? The guy who walks around. It's not micromanaging, right? It's making sure, how can you help, right, your team complete and do their tasks, okay? You're not telling them how to do it when you're walking around, right? It's how can you help them achieve that? And again, you're using the aspects of servant leadership, if you will, in that part of it, right? It's how are you helping your team make their objectives and goals that you set for them, right? So scaling clarity, right? The faster your organization grows in size, the faster the work grows in complexity. And the more you may feel like you don't have time to sit down with your team for clarity. But that's when you need to do it the most, right? Clarity improves the team's ability to execute, its ability to change direction confidently, and its overall satisfaction because, well, people have more confidence when they know they're doing something important and the important work, and it can be done and understanding why it matters in the grand scheme of things. Thank you everybody so much for being with us today, and visit Titan HST for your communication needs. And remember to follow us on your favorite podcast player, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and join us next week. Until then, stay safe and stay hydrated.